3-Eye Atlas, Origins, Activities and Agenda, an Exopolitics Commentary. Well, welcome to this October 9 Exopolitics Today commentary, where I'm going to be talking about 3-Eye Atlas and the many different perspectives that it has as to what is going on in terms of its origins, activities, and the agenda behind it. So I'm going to be looking at 11 sources. So that's going to be interesting, summarizing those sources for you and giving you some snippets from these. So this is the video version of an article which is now available or will be available on Thursday morning on my website, exopolitics.org. So the article will be there for those that want to take a look at the references and so forth. So here is the article as it's going to appear on Thursday. So I'm going to read to it. So I'll read it out and add commentary as I go along where I feel that it's appropriate. Okay, so as of October 8, this is the date of the recording, the world is left wondering why 6 Mars orbiters controlled by NASA, which has 2 orbiters around Mars, the European Space Agency, which also has 2 orbiters around Mars, and the space agencies of China and the United Arab Emirates have only released one image of 3-Eye Atlas as an indistinct dot as it reached perihelion with Mars on October 3. The image was released on October 7 by the European Space Agency's ExoMars orbiter. So here you can actually see this is how 3-Eye Atlas looks. It's 30 million kilometers away, and the ExoMars orbiter is pointing its camera towards it, and we're getting a view of how it looks from the perspective of the orbiter. So all you really can see is just a dot moving in the sky. I mean, it's 30 million kilometers away, and the orbiters are designed to examine features on the surface of Mars, which is only say several thousand miles below. So quite a difference, which is why all you're going to get is highly pixelated pictures of interstellar or of events taking place in space using the Mars Mars orbiters. But nevertheless, this does give us an idea of how it looks. Now, an earlier image was released through the mast cam on the Mars Perseverance rover, which provides a low-resolution live feed that was processed by 2 amateur astronomers to produce another blurry, pixelated object in space. So here I'm going to play a segment from a video by Stefan Burns, where he discusses how this kind of low-resolution image was gained.
And on October 3rd and October 4th, it took long exposure images of the night sky from the Martian surface, which do overlap with where 3-Eye Atlas was expected to be. And the clever work of 2 smart amateur astronomers were able to stack those images together, remove the noise, and cool out 3-Eye Atlas so we could see it. But we're still completely in the dark as it relates to this official imagery from NASA and ESA and others. And honestly, this is kind of concerning that we're having to rely on these super low quality pictures from the Mars Perseverance rover, because now that 3-Eye Atlas has gone close to Mars, it's outside of our ability to view from Earth. And it's going to perform a superior conjunction on October 21st, which means I'll be on the other side of the sun.
So there you had Stefan Burns explaining this low resolution image or images that were created by amateur astronomers using the live feed from the mast cam of the Mars Perseverance rover, which naturally, as you could imagine, is designed to survey the surface of Mars rather than give us high resolution images of what's happening in the sky. So, once again, what you get is a very low resolution pixelated picture. The slow response of the 4 national space agencies with orbiters around Mars that possess higher resolution cameras than the Perseverance rover has led to much speculation about a coordinated official cover-up of what's really happening with 3I Atlas. The official US federal government shutdown that began on October 1st has impacted NASA's ability to process and release Mars orbiter images and has led to speculation that the shutdown may have been orchestrated to justify not releasing 3I Atlas images. Some amateur astronomers are connecting the shutdown and the lack of NASA images to the newly renamed Department of War, summoning over 800 flag officers to Quantico US Marine Corps Base on September 30. So that was one of the things that immediately came to thought for me, was that, okay, there's a connection here between the shutdown, the perihelion of 3I Atlas with Mars, and the summoning of more than 800 flag officers to Quantico Marine Corps Base. And then all this is compounded by the August 28 executive order declaring that NASA will in future operate as a national intelligence and security agency. So that's very interesting, because that would actually give NASA authorities the explicit power to be able to do things like delay the release of any photographs from any satellites, any rovers that might in some way impact national security. So, I mean, if you got Martians or you got events happening near Mars with spacecraft and so forth, that's going to have a national security component. And I will talk about that in one of my perspectives that I'm going to examine. So, in this Exopolitics Commentary, I examine 11 perspectives on 3I Atlas in terms of its origins, activities, and agenda, and how these might contribute to an internationally coordinated cover-up of what is being presently observed around Mars by different national space agencies. These perspectives are not exhaustive. They just represent a sample that I'm familiar with and find most plausible. I will evaluate these 11 perspectives in terms of how much they corroborate one another and whether we can reach definitive conclusions about which is the most likely scenario. So let's begin with the very first, and I'm trying to place these perspectives in chronological order so we can see who was first, who may have influenced others, and so forth. So the first perspective, this goes to Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard University. On July 7, Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb wrote a paper, Rendezvous with 3I Atlas, about the newly detected 3I Atlas and compared it with the 50 by 20 kilometers sized derelict spacecraft described in Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama. On July 16, Loeb raised the possibility that 3I Atlas is alien technology in 2 papers in which he linked to the dark forest hypothesis. He proposed that 3I Atlas may be associated, sorry for the typo there. He proposed that 3I Atlas may be associated with a hostile alien species. Loeb has written subsequent papers describing its trajectory, taking it close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter at 5 degrees above the ecliptic plane as statistically highly unlikely and more likely that its trajectory was chosen by an alien intelligence. More recently, Loeb wrote a paper describing how 3I Atlas originated roughly from the same direction as the famous 1977 WOW signal, which emanated from the constellation of Sagittarius and the center of the Milky Way. In short, Loeb's hypothesis that 3I Atlas may be a hostile alien spacecraft from the center of the galaxy, which transmitted the WOW signal in 1977, gives some insight into why a coordinated international cover-up is underway. So what Loeb has written in multiple papers does give us a understanding of why, from a conventional perspective, you might have the Pentagon or the Department of War in the US seeing 3I Atlas as an important national security issue and summoning the generals to Quantico on September 30, and then the blackout, the federal government shutting down, justifying not releasing any kind of imagery, live imagery from the Mars orbiters. And NASA's Mars orbiters, I mean, they have the most high quality cameras of all 6 orbiters there. So, this gives us an idea of why it is that you may have the kind of establishment, the national security system, being very alarmed about 3I Atlas. So the second perspective, this comes from George Kavasilis. In an Exopolitics Today interview published on August 11, George Kavasilis claimed 3I Atlas is the lead ship in a small fleet led by the US Navy Jedi admirals who have taken over the disclosure process on Earth. He says that the admirals are asserting their authority over the Earth Alliance and Galactic Federation of Worlds is taking charge of the disclosure process, which will begin with astronomers and scientists overwhelmingly accepting the artificial nature of 3I Atlas. According to Kavasilis, 3I Atlas is using stealth technology to project the image of a comet, and it is approaching frequencies, and it is impacting frequencies of Earth and the rest of the solar system in a way that will significantly upgrade human and planetary consciousness in a way that benefits everybody. So the rising tide lifts all boats type thing is going on here with 3I Atlas. And interestingly, according to George, I mean, 3I Atlas is controlled by these Navy, former Navy or current Navy Jedi admirals who are working with a number of positive extraterrestrial races. And according to George Kavasilis, they are currently in charge of the disclosure process on Earth. So this is the interview I did with George. It goes for close to 2 hours, and he describes 3I Atlas and the role it's playing in helping bring about a UFO disclosure on Earth and also disseminating frequencies that are impacting the entire solar system and the Earth itself. George's information gives us another perspective on why the truth about 3I Atlas is being covered up. It's part of a white hat plan to awaken humanity, and black hats, the deep state controlling national security, national space agencies, don't want this information to come out. Okay, so the third perspective comes from Elena Danan. So on August 18, Elena claims to have seen 3I Atlas through the eyes of her primary extraterrestrial contact, Thorhan Eredjian, who flew near it in a Galactic Federation spacecraft. Elena says it is an ancient spacecraft that is several billion years old, about 50 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. So that's kind of very similar to what Avi Loeb estimated and, well, compared it to the rendezvous with Rama craft that was described in Arthur C. Clarke's book. She asserts a benevolent plasma consciousness inhabits 3I Atlas similar to Pithelum that David Adair encountered in 1971 at Area 51 inside an ancient spacecraft. So David Adair at Area 51, he was 17 at the time. He encountered this ancient engine that was part of a larger spacecraft, and it was several million years old. I think he actually described it as hundreds of millions of years old, and that there was this consciousness in it which actually went into him because he was compatible in some way. He described himself as a lifeboat for this extraterrestrial consciousness. So according to Elena Danaan, 3I Atlas is similarly a very ancient spacecraft that has a consciousness that's associated with it. So Elena doesn't discuss 3I Atlas as impacting consciousness directly, but highlights the wow factor associated with it, and that it originates from the center of the galaxy, which aligns with what Loeb had earlier revealed. So the fourth perspective comes from Dick Allgaier. So in a video published on August 29, Dick Allgaier released his results from a double-blind remote viewing experiment conducted on 3I Atlas. He saw a nearby spacecraft using stealth technology to hide itself that was pulling an object, 3I Atlas, through space using a tractor beam. This was a double-blind remote viewing experiment that was conducted with 3 other remote viewers who provided corroborating data. So here's the image, one of the images that, unfortunately, I've reversed it for some reason. But yeah, anyway, it shows a craft down here, some object which is using stealth technology to hide itself. So it's not being picked up on cameras, and it's using a tractor beam to drag along this object, this long, kind of like cylinder-shaped object, which is as much as 50 kilometers long, and it's dragging that through space. So that is clearly some kind of initiative by some group, whether it's extraterrestrials, such as Loeb claims, or whether it is a white hat initiative, as George Kavassilis claims. I guess we will find out, or hope to find out. Here's perspective number 5, and this comes from David Sereda. So on August 29, David released a paper on his Medium site called 3I Atlas and the Hyperdimensional Solar System. In it, he identifies key aspects of its passage through the orbital paths of most planets in our solar system and what this tells us using hyperdimensional physics. In short, 3I Atlas is playing a key role in upgrading the frequencies of our solar system by following a specific trajectory through our solar system as it passes by the orbital rings or paths of all the planets. So, here you have a GIF diagram showing 3I Atlas as it approaches Mars, crosses the orbital ring or path of Mars, gets close to Venus's orbital path, and then on its outbound leg, it's past the sun. Now it's heading out, and it's going to pass close to Jupiter, but obviously through the orbital ring, and then onwards to the orbital rings of Saturn. And according to David, the timing of the passage of 3I Atlas has great relevance in terms of hyperdimensional physics. And in his view, this is going to be impacting the frequencies of our solar system in a profound way. So Sereda's information supports Kavassilis' perspective that 3I Atlas is transmitting codes and frequencies that are impacting consciousness in a positive way. Okay, so here's perspective number 6. This is John Vivanco, the remote viewer. I've interviewed him, I think, about 4 times now on Exopolitics Today. On September 11, in his co-hosted show Metaphysical, John Vivanco described 3i Atlas as a spacecraft controlled by reptilian ETs who are in a battle with other ETs, primarily light-skinned Nordics in our solar system, over control of the Earth and its population. So I have time-stamped it, so let's hear what John has to say.
All right, so John, I'm imagining you had a little bit of time to have this thing remote viewed. So what?
Yeah.
Well, it's like, no, it's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd rather postulate and kind of circle my finger around it than actually point to it. Because it's like, yeah, we live in this bubble on this planet. The bubble is so tight, so constrained. People believe only what their authorities tell them, and the screens that the authorities are telling them through that they're looking at are the method of control, thought, understanding, everything. The world, what's outside of this, has got nothing to do with what they tell you. Nothing. And this. I know people are starting to open it and expand this because sometimes playing really good at theater games. And so I think people are maybe a little bit more ready to grasp onto an edge of it. These are things that I have known for a very long time, being in the position that I've been in. I will just tell you that the data that we have on this current object is that it is an unnatural object. It's controlled by a specific type of being who are with that object, who are moving towards this area or location because there's something going on just outside of us that is, I would just say, sort of in contention with other groups that don't have to do with humans directly, but have to do with humans as the cavemen on the planet who are waving their sticks at it, and the resource on the planet that they perceive them as. If people have watched our episodes before, we have gotten a lot of things that happen out there that are battle related with different species, with remote viewing. A lot of people have spoken about this too. Other remote viewers have looked at this too. And we're talking about big projects. We're not talking about like just singular remote viewers. We're talking about big projects with analysis. And we have one of these situations where there is contention, where there are different races of beings who are needing, trying to control different aspects of the caveman planet, of what they perceive as theirs. So that's what the data was implying. It was literally about these other beings coming in because they're in a fight with ones that are like here as well over this space. And that's what we're seeing in the data with this.
So I'm just curious if you have this information, but are the beings that are on this ship more humanoid like us, or are these full on like
about this? It starts with the R word.
Okay, so there you have John Vivanco kind of like being a little reluctant to say reptilian. I mean, because the reptilian word, is instantly flagged on YouTube and so forth, and it's kind of commonly used to denote these evil or aggressive extraterrestrial races. But according to the remote viewing that Vivanco did, 3i Atlas is controlled by the reptilians who have come to contest for control over planet Earth, which is controlled by light-skinned, human-looking races, or what we would call the Nordics. So Vivanco's information dovetails with what Avi Loeb said, that 3i Atlas is associated with a negative alien agenda, to maintain control over the Earth and its resources. So with Avi Loeb, he's based his conclusion on this dark forest hypothesis. John Vivanco has used his remote viewing protocols to be able to get that data. Perspective number 7. This comes from the GFL station. So on September 25, the GFL station released a channeled message that 3i Atlas is transmitting Lyran genetic codes, which are supercharging star seeds and a harbinger of the deep state's defeat. Subsequent messages from GFL station emphasizing the frequencies and codes being released by 3i Atlas for positive purposes, thereby supporting Cavassalis' perspective. I find the GFL station to be a plausible source of information based on my conversation with its founder, David Nichols, who struck me as a grounded and sincere individual dedicated to disseminating information gained through channeling. So David Nichols is a former monk, Buddhist monk, and I certainly found him to be a very impressive person when I talked to him. Very sincere, very dedicated, and I believe he is genuinely connected with some highly evolved beings. Now, whether they are ascended masters, extraterrestrials, angels, archangels, I mean, that's all open to debate. But I think there is great sincerity in what he's doing, and he works with approximately 10 other people who provide all the channeling that is produced on the GFL station, which has kind of come out of nowhere and currently has about 140,000 YouTube subscribers. And it produces a prodigious amount of information. Like, I think there's just about 2 channelings every day that come out. Well, that's a result of David Nichols and approximately 10 other channelers producing their information. And he said that they then use voiceover artists to kind of like add the dramatic inflections and so forth, and the music to make it something that is interesting for people to listen to. Now, some might say that, well, what David Nichols and his fellow channelers are doing is putting out a lot of hopium, because they do tend to focus on the very positive side of things. But I don't think that's a reason to dismiss the information, because I think there's a lot of truth in the idea that some extraterrestrials may be deliberately putting out hopium or white propaganda, because that influences us to create the very world that we would like to go into. I mean, the old adage, where your attention goes, reality flows. So if you put your attention on some positive vision of the future, then that's the future you're going to manifest collectively. So, so I think this information is definitely worth listening to. And he and the other channelers are saying 3i Atlas is this harbinger for frequency changes that are now happening in our solar system. And these frequency changes are activating ancient Lyran codes in our bodies that enables us to reach our fullest potential. So this is very similar to what George Cavassalis had to say. Perspective number 8, JP. So JP, I've been working with him since 2008. And in 2020, January, he joined the US Army, served for 4.5 years, and then was given an honorable discharge for medical reasons with a full pension, which is very, very unusual. Normally, you have to serve for 20 years in the military to get a full pension, but he got it after 4.5 years. And the reason for that was that he suffered his injury, or got let's just say that the medical discharge was for medical conditions that are directly related to his UFO extraterrestrial related experiences. And that actually has been argued or has been shown. There have been whistleblowers who have said that, yes, this has been happening, that military personnel who suffer injuries as a result of interacting with UFOs, they're given an honorable discharge for medical reasons and are given a full pension. So that's what happened to JP as well. So JP on September 26 shared information from his latest contact with a Nordic extraterrestrial who explained that Martian colonists who escaped the red planet after catastrophic changes millennia ago have just returned to our solar system. There is a connection between the returning Martians and 3I Atlas, which made its closest approach to Mars on October 3. JP was told 3I Atlas may change course to directly interact with or even land on Mars. JP added that either 3I Atlas or craft associated with it may break away and head to Earth to join Martians hidden in undersea bases. While JP was told the Martians were not hostile to humanity, their advanced technologies and experiences would represent a potential national security threat. So it's very interesting that JP was given this information about 3I Atlas and that part of it might break away, or that there may be a fleet in stealth associated with it, connected to it, that will break away and head towards Mars and land on it. So that might explain why the Mars orbiters have been silent. As I've said so far, only one of the 6 orbiters, and that is the ExoMars orbiter from the European Space Agency, has released any images so far. Now, the idea that craft associated with 3I Atlas may actually not only break away and head to Mars, but also head towards Earth and join their fellow Martians in undersea bases who have been here for millennia, I think that would naturally get the national security establishment very, very concerned, that they would be concerned about that. You know, what are the returning Martians going to do? I mean, they're obviously an interstellar species, or have lived in interstellar space for a long time, and now they're back in our solar system. They have advanced technologies. They are the ancestors of modern humanity, with their peers living in underground or underwater bases that have been here for millennia unseen. So I think that would naturally create a planetary crisis if that were to happen. So this gives a plausible reason why you had all the generals and admirals being summoned to the Pentagon on September 30. JP's information gives a powerful case for why an internationally coordinated cover-up is underway to suppress information about 3I Atlas. If it is associated with returning Martians whose intent and capabilities are largely unknown and potentially hostile, then a planetary crisis would emerge, with either scenario of returning Martians landing on Mars or some of them heading towards Earth. So this is something that I'm sure would be of great concern to the national security establishment. But this is what JP was told by this Nordic-looking extraterrestrial that approached him, that helped him recover his memories about a incident that happened in 2018 when he was taken inside of a Nordic spacecraft and saw Mars' final days and the evacuation of Mars and the Martians leaving on 40 ships heading towards the Earth. And importantly, JP took a photograph of the spacecraft that he was taken on back in 2018. So that's on my website, That's on the page I've created in the category of witnesses. So if you go to my witnesses category, you'll see the JP as the first of the witnesses. And there, all the photos of JP's missions have been put up. Perspective number 9. So now we go to Sarah Breskman Cosme. So on September 27, Sarah Breskman Cosme released a video about 3i Atlas, where she was told it possesses the consciousness of ancient extraterrestrials that has arrived to uplift our solar system and humanity by disseminating unique solar frequencies containing transformative DNA codes. She was told October 16 is a key date in receiving and integrating these solar codes, and advocates people spending as much time in the sun as possible that day. So you can listen to that video here. It is linked, so you can click that link, and let's see. Here we go. You can listen to the portion where the person is talking about 3i Atlas. So let me play a little bit of that.
This is forcing intervention, whereas intervention doesn't normally occur. This is intentional. It is to assist with the progression of those who do not want to be entangled in the two different pathways. The two pathways being the separation from the old earth, the souls who have opted in to cycle another cycle, from those who have chosen to separate from the previous cycle and enter a new cycle.
Okay.
Focusing on helping both.
Oh, okay. So very interesting. And you said it's an intervention. Can you tell me where this 3i Atlas is actually coming from and who is behind this?
Many who are behind it are ones that you would be familiar with. It is a joint consciousness, not separate beings, as though they are riding it like a spaceship, but more consciously infused within it. Atlas itself is conscious. It holds the consciousness of Pleiadians and some Pleiadian reptilian hybrid who have been converted over time. Ashtar Command is helping to guide. Andromedons help to guide it. They help mask what it looks like. It is a ship. They were involved in constructing.
Okay, so you get an idea of what 3i Atlas is, that there's multiple ET species there. Interestingly, she mentioned a reptilian Nordic hybrid race who have converted. It's the Ashtar Command, the Andromeda Council, and other races that are involved. And her information is gained through what was revealed by the higher self of the client that she was working with at that time. So it's worth kind of like just emphasizing here that that QHHT induces a hypnotic state in clients who typically are there to heal themselves of something or to access past life memories out of interest or for health reasons, or sometimes to just gather information. And so what Sarah does is that for people who establish a strong connection with their higher self, she typically works with them not as paying clients, but as clients who are providing information. So there's a kind of exchange there. So this is what is happening in this case. where this particular client has a very good connection with the higher self, her higher self. And so Sarah has asked the client to answer questions about certain topics and things like 3i Atlas. So what we essentially getting here is a form of communication through QHHT with a person's higher self. Now, I think it's very important that we acknowledge that this is an independent source of information. I mean, you've got other sources of information gathering. I mean, you've got remote viewing, you got channeling, you got people who have been taken in contact situations in the space and recalling their experiences, and all of these different sources of information all have their place. And I think as a exopolitics researcher, it's important, indeed incumbent on us, to consider all the sources of information and not give preferences to just one source because, well, we deem it to be empirically verifiable and therefore it is the most reliable and so forth. Well, something like that can easily be manipulated. And so I think QHHT is another form of information gathering. It's legitimate and needs to be considered, and that's what Sarah Bressman is doing here to give us more information about 3i Atlas. And I find it very significant that she's saying that it's transmitting unique solar frequencies that are impacting our solar system. So Sarah's information is similar to what George Kavasilis, David Sereda, and GFL Station have said about the role 3i Atlas is playing in disseminating transformative codes and frequencies. So that's very interesting that it is here to bring about change in our solar system because its presence and its particular trajectory through our solar system is transmitting all these codes that are impacting the planets and the sun. And October 16, which is really one week away. Today, well, this is going to be released on October 9, so Thursday, October 9. So October 16 is Thursday next week. So that's important, according to Sarah, to be in the sun that day, as little as 30 minutes, just to be in the sun so that you receive whatever solar codes have been transmitted to the sun from 3i Atlas to help upgrade humanity. Okay, perspective number 10. This is Lily Nova. So on October 2nd, in an Exopolitics Today interview, I interviewed Lily, and she claimed that 3i Atlas involved a conglomerate of extraterrestrial races that is part of a White Hats initiative. She said that Lyran genetic codes are being transmitted using stealth technology to project a comet image. So that's very interesting that once again you have stealth technology being used by the extraterrestrials to make it look like a comet. So Lily's information corroborates George Kavasilis' information about 3i Atlas being a White Hats initiative that is coordinating with extraterrestrial organizations such as the Galactic Federation. She also corroborates Kavasilis and Sereda's information about it transmitting codes and frequencies, and also corroborates the GFL station's views about a connection with Lyran extraterrestrials. So I think this is a perspective that really touches upon many others who have come forward to share information about 3i Atlas as upgrading the frequencies of our solar system, it transmitting codes and frequencies, and that there's a connection with these ancient Lyran extraterrestrials. So fascinating information. And you could go to my channel and you can see the interview I did with Lily on October 2nd where she talks about that. Now, the final perspective I'm going to look at is someone new. Well, she's not really new, but she's not well known. And this is Bertie Calabrese, who is actually a remote viewer that was involved at the very beginning of setting up remote viewing as a civilian information gathering method. And she worked with Courtney Brown at the Farsight Institute to begin with, and then she established her own organization called Transdimensional Mapping, and she set that up with John Vivanco. Very interesting connection there. And she and John were so successful that they gathered the attention of the intelligence community. And what Bertie revealed in a pre-interview with me was that the remote viewing of the Twin Towers before the event occurred, that's what got the attention of the intelligence community, and she began to experience a lot of harassment and monitoring and so forth. And so she decided to quit remote viewing, professional remote viewing for clients and so forth, and just went private. And so for over 20 years, she has been working in the private sector, selling Avon products and so forth, but says that she maintained her remote viewing practice every day over that 20-year period, and that a year ago she resumed again, that she felt that it was safe now to talk about remote viewing and the results. So on October 2nd, Bertie conducted a blind remote viewing of Three Eye Atlas. She says it's a very ancient craft, older than Earth, lonely, so again that suggests some kind of consciousness, not inhabited, so she doesn't see any beings on it. Suggestive of some kind of plasma consciousness inhabiting it. She claims it's a warning beacon, like a lighthouse. So is it a warning about some negative group going to attack, or about humanity's technological development being a threat? That's something we will need to find out. Bertie's information corroborates what Elena Danaan learned about Three Eye Atlas being uninhabited, ancient, and possessing a plasma consciousness. This perspective echoes the rendezvous with Rama analogy first proposed by Loeb, and of course that is described at length in the book by Arthur C. Clarke. So there's the link to Bertie Calabrese's remote viewing session on Three Eye Atlas. So, conclusion. These 11 perspectives represent a sample of the different views concerning Three Eye Atlas that are being promoted and discussed at this moment in time, while the public is still waiting for official statements and high-resolution images that help explain what Three Eye Atlas truly is. Based on the 11 perspectives examined, these can be broken into three broad categories of possible extraterrestrial agendas and activities. 1. Three Eye Atlas is an ancient uninhabited spacecraft similar to that described in Rendezvous with Rama, which is supported by Loeb, Danaan, and Calabrese. The second category, Three Eye Atlas is linked to a potentially hostile or enigmatic extraterrestrial intelligence supported by Loeb, Vivanco, Allgaier, and JP. And the third category, Three Eye Atlas is linked with positive extraterrestrial intelligence who are disseminating transformative frequencies and codes in our solar system, supported by Cavasilis, Sarada, GFL Station, Bressman, and Nova. So those three categories, I mean, you can kind of like generally refer to the different ETs and the Three Eye Atlas as really being representative of the good, the bad, and the indifferent. So the perspective number one, we would describe that as being the indifferent perspective. Category number 1 would be the indifferent. Category number 2 would be the bad. And category number 3 would be the good. So very interesting that we have those, that kind of breakdown. I look forward to getting more scientific data to understand the truth about 3i Atlas and to subsequently refine and improve the analysis of the multiple perspectives on its agenda and activities. So I wrote this commentary because I wanted to kind of put in writing and to make it clear what different perspectives are out there on 3i Atlas, because as the future unfolds and we learn more about it, we'll be able to see who was more correct in their analysis or in the information that they provided on 3i Atlas. Before finishing, I want to just announce my next webinar, which is going to be a up to 5-hour webinar where I'll be doing a presentation followed by a panel discussion and then a Q&A on Disclosure, Truth, Apocalypse Coming, the exopolitical big picture. So I'll be joined by George Kavasilis and JP, where in addition to discussing 3i Atlas and its significance, we'll be discussing many other developments that point to disclosure happening sooner rather than later. That even though the deep state has been desperately trying to stop the disclosure process from unfolding, events are transpiring at this very moment where disclosure is going to happen, and it's going to happen pretty quickly. So that's going to be my next webinar with George K and JP. So thank you for watching, and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.